Um, Liang, waiting for your go ahead. Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Good morning, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Chiamaka Wachuko, and I am the lead facilitator for the Southern Africa Beijing+25 Youth Baraza, and I would like to welcome all of you today to this event. Um, this event, it has been co-hosted by the AU Office of the Youth Envoy and the AU Women and Gender Development Directorate, with the help of the Pan-African Women Organization and the support of the Southern Africa Youth Forum. The Baraza is part of the overall Africa Young Women Beijing+25 mobilization, and it is supported by the Children Investment Fund and the members of the steering committee of our consultations, which is the All-in Young Women Leaders Caucus, the Moremi Initiative for Women's Leadership in Africa, Gender is my Agenda Campaign, Youth Network, and Pan-African Women's Organization Youth Desk. So today's Baraza is structured as follows. We will first be leaving the floor for welcome remarks and the official opening, and then we will be guiding you to your respective breakout sessions to discuss 7 themes reflecting the various focus for the catalytic actions, but also the current theme of the African Union, namely silencing the guns. And the breakout sessions will be as follows: gender-based violence, economic rights and justice, bodily autonomy and sexual and reproductive health rights, feminist action for climate justice, technology and innovation for gender equality, feminist movement and leadership, and youth silencing the guns. After 1 hour of consultations in the breakout room, which will be led by the respective facilitators and reported by our wonderful rapporteurs, we will come back for the closing plenary, where we will listen to the feedback from all the various rooms. Now I would like to give the floor to our speakers for their remarks. We will first start with the AU Youth Envoy, who will share her welcome remarks, and then followed by Her Excellency Josepha Lionel Correa Sacco, the African Union Commissioner of Rural Economy and Agriculture, who has joined today to be a part of this opening of the Baraza. Her Excellency will be followed by a presentation by Ms. Victoria Maloka, the Acting Director of the Women, Gender and Development Directorate of the African Union, who will provide a background on the Beijing+25 process. So I would like to welcome you all, and I wish us all a very, very successful and insightful deliberation today. Ms. Shebi, you have the floor now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chiamaka. Welcome everyone to the Southern Africa Beijing+25 Youth Baraza. I want to try to keep my remarks really short because I really look forward to hearing from Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture, Ambassador Josepha Sacco. I've been really looking forward to engaging you in our activities, and I'm so thrilled you could be able to join us today, and thank you for honoring our invitation. As someone from the region, I'm sure you will inspire many young women here from the Southern Africa region. I'm also really thrilled, Victoria, you were able to join us despite the technology and internet failures. And thank you, really thank you to our Gender Directorate under your leadership for supporting the youth agenda and its intersection with the women agenda. I also want to welcome the Deputy President of the Pan-African Women Organization, PAO, and sincere thank you to PAO. We are very honored to co-host this Baraza with the first and oldest Pan-African organization, which happens to be led by women. I think it's a reminder that there is no Pan-Africanism without feminism. So thank you for engaging our generation, because we have a lot to learn from your wisdom, and our theory of change has always been intergenerational co-leadership and dialogue. So we appreciate that PAO will help us create this intergenerational space of learning and solidarity. Thank you also to the youth networks who mobilized for this Baraza, all the youth organizations with us here, the moderators, the rapporteurs, and especially SADC Youth Forum. Thank you for mobilizing the SADC youth to join us today. We've done together the intergenerational dialogue on silencing the guns in SADC, and we continue. Every time we come back to SADC region, we involve you because we believe in your platform and we will continue to support you. Thank you also to Global Partnership for Education for the continuous collaboration and our joint advocacy on girls' education. This plenary is also streamed on GPE platforms. And lastly, thank you to Children's Investment Fund Foundation and UN Women for supporting this project and our mobilization. The Honorable Minister of Women and Youth and Person with Disability of South Africa was supposed to join us, but her office just informed us that she had other urgent issues. So I hope a representative from the ministry would still be able to join in the closing later. But just want to thank also the minister for her support and the process, and for South Africa leadership and the action coalitions. Now, our approach is really simple. The African Women Organization, this organization of the mobilization must be an Africa-led and young women-led. So the demands of young women in the Southern Africa region will feed into the Africa Young Women Manifesto. 10 practical demands this manifesto will consider that will be the result of all the consultations from all the regions, and we're hoping to present it at the 2021 Generation Equality Forums. So we were last week in West and East Africa region. Today we come to you, and next week we will go to Central and North Africa regions. Our approach is also bottom up, because this is not an African Union manifesto starting at high level. This is the Young Women Manifesto. You will discuss, you will share the challenges, you will craft the demands, and you will rally for next year and beyond with one voice. And we are only here to convene and facilitate and to bring the decision makers to this platform. On 25th of November, we will convene a global intergenerational dialogue, including our diaspora, to bring everything together in a common position and present and publish this manifesto. So please be bold and be concrete in your demands and set the agenda, because our future is what we're talking about here, and we need to take charge of that. So with Victoria going to give us the background later on Beijing+25 process and Action Coalition and so on and so forth, to set the foundation for breakout session, I think my job here becomes really easy, which is to emphasize our commitment as the African Union to gender equality. As you see, 3 AU offices here at the opening, and from our different roles at the AU, we're trying to move from aspiration to implementation. And in conclusion, I just want to express our solidarity with young people, with young women at the forefront of demanding change and taking the streets to organize and rise up for their rights in Namibia, in Zimbabwe, in South Africa, and everywhere in the region. We stand behind you, so lead the way. I want to welcome you again, and I look forward to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Ms. Chebi, for those words, impactful words to set the tone for today's deliberations. I would now like to invite Her Excellency, the AU Commissioner for Agriculture and Rural Economy, Her Excellency Josepha Sako, to give her opening remarks. Your Excellency, you have the floor now.
Hello, I was muted.
Okay, we can hear you now.
Yeah, good afternoon, every one of you. Good morning, depending where you were. And thank you very much, moderator, to give me the floor. My dear, I beg Shebi, the African Union Special Envoy on Youth, the representative of the Gender Directorate, the representative of PAU, distinguished guests, my young ladies and gentlemen, all protocol duly observed. It is my privilege and honor to present these opening remarks at this very important meeting. This regional Baraza was convened among many things to achieve the following: foster intergenerational co-leadership and dialogues among young women and African Union and United Nations stakeholders, enable young women in the different regions to share their initiative and engagement at the grassroots level, at the national, regional, and continental level, mobilize for the African Youth Women Manifesto with 10 practical demands. It was also said by Aya when she did her own welcome address. I very much hope that this objective will be achieved, especially as today's African youth and young women in particular are a critical pillar for attaining structural transformation and sustainable development. The youth are the center and the vibrant population of our continent. Ensuring intergenerational equality is therefore an essential element of our work. Young women, just like your young men, possesses skills that are essential for improving our livelihoods. However, our young African women face the triple burden of being female, young, and vulnerable to this risk. They also experience unequal opportunity to access resources such as finance, the land in agriculture, that's my area, skill as well as education because of some cultural norms. I understand that women inclusive of of young ones are less employed and receive far less pay even when they are employed compared to their male counterparts in similar circumstances. There's still this inequality on the continent. Some negative traditional norms and practices continue to perpetuate young women's limited involvement in the political, social, and economic sphere of life, which is, if not addressed, can push them and their family into poverty. Societal norms should not be used as a weapon to undermine our young women's confidence and self-esteem, but rather be used to encourage them to do their best. We should not have complex. What a man can do, a woman can do, not complex. The key is to have a good skill, good education. Once you have it, we should not be afraid. The greatest challenge now is the COVID-19 pandemic, which has taken a huge toll in lost lives and in economic damage within African and internationally. It is already clear that the biggest impact has been on the poorest and the most vulnerable people, with women being particularly impacted in many countries and social situations. The African Union Agenda 2063 and the Youth Charter all promote the improved well-being, rights, and protection of youth, including our young women. One of the aspirations of Agenda 2063 is an African whose development is people's driven, relying on the potential of African people. Majority of our population are young, especially its women and youth, and caring for the children, because this is the future of tomorrow. If our young people, especially women, are not integrated and involved in our development program, as well as decision-making processes, our continent can continue to lag behind. In 2019, the African Union Commission put in place the 1 million by 2021 initiative that aims at reaching African youth with opportunity and intervention in the areas of employment, entrepreneurship, education, and engagement, the 4Es, which we hope will in turn contribute to socio-economic development on the continent. Young women should not be left out in this massive opportunity to transform the African landscape. My desire is that the young women from Southern Africa, my region of origin, I'm from Angola, will emerge as a role model, Viva SADC, and portray the ability that they are change makers on the continent. And I trust this generation of the SADC region. Considering that up to 70% of jobs in Africa are related to agriculture sector. My department, the Department of Rural Economy and Agriculture, DREA, is developing the African Agribusiness Youth Strategy. We hope this will contribute to the economic empowerment of women. The strategy focuses on empowering young and agripreneurs. DREA has also been making effort to promote access to and ownership of land by youth and women, which we believe is paramount in our developmental agenda. To improve the lives of our young women, we need to think of holistic strategies that address the challenges they face. As we progress to development, the Africa Young Women Manifesto, let us critically reflect on the key challenges faced by our young women in rural areas as well, and the urban poor. Because those are the fringe of the population that we really need to concentrate if we want to really achieve the goals of the SDG, as well as the Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. The poor who, in some instances, do not have a voice and opportunity to participate, as well as express their opinion through a platform such as the one we have had today. Give them a chance, invite them, mobilize them to talk about their own issues. As the entire globe is becoming more digital, let us build the competencies of young women in the use of various information technology so that they are able to interact and communicate more efficiently. Let us also build the capacity of our relevant government ministries in the integration of gender, especially young women, in the planning and budgeting processes of development program. We need to counter all forms of gender-based violence that exist and continue to cause physical, emotional, and mental harm to our young women and girls. This starts by ensuring that our legal framework and community are also alert to prevent the GBV from happening in the home, workplace, school, and community. Justice system must also be available to ensure that perpetrators are held accountable for their wrongs. These efforts must go hand in hand with improving our health care system and increase the knowledge of young women and girls of, uh, of their reproductive rights and responsibility. I further encourage our governments to put education, skill, literacy, and empowerment programs that encourage innovation and entrepreneurship among young women and girls to promote innovation and enterprises led by our young women. We need to invest also in low-cost technology, create conducive business environment, and provide affordable access to finance. To this use are and will continue to be champion of our effort to protect our environment, conserve our natural resources, and reserve the adverse impact caused by climate change. In whatever program that we are developing, we must build resilience within our agriculture system. To conclude, allow me to state that a sustainable future in Africa can only be granted if we recognize and strengthen the contribution of all youth, including all youth, including that of young women and girls, and attach value to the reproductive roles they continue to play within our African society. More importantly, I would like to see the young men and boys also mobilizing to support this important cause. Thank you all for participating in this Baraza and for according me the opportunity to speak during this meeting. I look forward to reading the African Young Women Manifesto and stand committed to supporting young women and girls in Africa, mostly in the rural area, where is my mandate comes. I thank you very much for your participation. Muito obrigada, merci beaucoup, asante sana, shukran.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, for those words of wisdom. And we are always happy to have you here with us to set the tone for this consultation and this Baraza. And we are happy for your solidarity and your support to young women and youth across the region. Thank you once again for honoring our invitation. And we are grateful to have had you. I would now like to hand the floor over to Ms. Victoria Maloka, the Acting Director of the Women, Gender and Development Directorate of the African Union, to provide a background on the Beijing+25 process. You're welcome, Ms. Victoria.
Thank you very much, Chiamaka. Good afternoon, good morning, dear colleagues and young change makers of Africa. Let me first of all recognize my principals, Your Excellency, Commissioner Joseph Asako, our Commissioner for Rural Economy and Agriculture. It is so good to see you, and what a fantastic, really presentation statement that we have given here. Thank you so much. And Your Excellency, Meba Tabile Dlamini, the Deputy President of the Pan-African Women's Organization, also the President of the ANC Women's League. We honor you, Me Batabile, and thank you always for your leadership and for your heart for women's issues and especially for young women's issues. And of course, the Pan-African Women's Organization being the premier specialized agency in the African Union, responsible for promoting gender equality and women's empowerment. It is really an honor that we have you here as the co-host and support of this meeting here today. We really appreciate POWER. Is an organization of our mothers, the founding mothers of Africa, and we are happy that today the mothers are here to empower the young women to take over the reins and learn from the mothers. Thank you so very much. And let me also give special thanks and an acknowledgement to our co-hosts and the brains behind the consultation meeting. Messiah Chebi, the AU Youth Envoy, and of course her entire team, Dr. Shakira Chonara, and everybody. We really appreciate you, the South African Youth Forum, and all our partners, GMAC, everybody. Thank you so very much for your support. And really, I recognize all of you young women and progressive young men gathered here today. We cannot move Africa forward without the effective and full and equal participation of young people. And really, these consultations are testament to that, the importance of ensuring that young women and young people are there with us all the way. This is the third of the 5 African Youth Women Beijing+25 regional consultations and global intergenerational dialogues to develop the African Young Women's Manifesto, which integrates the perspectives of young people in the new global blueprint that will define gender equality and women's empowerment going forward. We've had 2 consultations before, as Aya also mentioned, and really from those 2 consultations we really had remarkable things, and I'm beyond proud and excited really about the future of African women. I know that Africa is in excellent hands, and really I would like to honor each and every one of you who's here today to define what is going to be a blueprint for the Africa of tomorrow, but starting to build the Africa right here today with you right here present. This year, as you're aware, we are celebrating the 25th anniversary of the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action, which really set the tone and is the most progressive global blueprint for advancing gender equality, women's rights, and women's empowerment. Many of you may have heard how African leaders like yourselves mobilized throughout Africa to make sure that their concerns, their issues, their interests are also reflected and incorporated in that document, the Beijing Declaration and Platform for Action. So today, really, it's an exciting moment for us, because you also gathered to ensure that the voices of young women are effectively, equally, and fully included in the new blueprint that is going to define the gender equality and women's empowerment agenda. And that is what we call the generation equality. And as you know, it has 6 action coalitions, 1 on gender-based violence, 2, economic justice and rights, 3, bodily autonomy and sexual and reproductive health and rights, 4, feminist action for climate change, technology and innovation for gender equality, and we also have feminism, feminist movements and leadership. You're aware that South Africa here in the SADC is leading the Action Coalition on Economic Justice and Rights, and therefore this SADC consultation is very, very important, because it is going to assist in defining what South Africa is going to be presenting to the generation equality on behalf of Africa, of course. And really, we are very excited that you are taking advantage of this opportunity to bring your voices, to bring the voices of young women in the forefront of the generation equality agenda. Dear colleagues, these consultations will also ensure that you develop the common Africa position that will be integrated into the global position on what Africa will be taking to the generation equality action coalitions. We really do not take this for granted. It's very, very important that the voices of young people are fully integrated and fully heard in what this new blueprint is going to look like. As you know, the consultations are also very timely, as they take place against the backdrop of the celebrations of the 10th anniversary of the first African Women's Decade on grassroots approaches to gender equality and women's empowerment, which started in 2010 and is ending this year. Actually, a few days ago, on the 15th of October, we celebrated that 10th anniversary of the African Women's Decade. And it's important because the purpose of the African Women's Decade was to accelerate the implementation of the Beijing Declaration and other AU commitments on gender equality and women's empowerment, like the Solemn Declaration on Gender Equality in Africa, Maputo Protocol, and so on. So really, what we are doing here today is bigger than consultation meetings that are going to, to input into the action coalitions. You're also ensuring that the voices of young people are fully heard, and that you're able to ensure that as we continue to push for gender equality and women's empowerment in Africa, as we continue to push for the implementation of the AU instruments on gender equality, the voices of young women define our own strategies and our own action. And really, I would like to continue and to really emphasize how proud we are of you. You may also be aware that October is Women, Peace and Security Month, as we celebrate the 20th anniversary of UN Security Council Resolution 1325. So really, dear colleagues, progressive young men, Mubarak Isse, I see you and I feel you with many other young men who are here today. It's important that we use some of these instruments to inspire us. Mubarak, when you leave here, go and tell young men like you that it is important that we walk side by side with young women. We are not saying young women or that behind every young man there's a young woman. No. You walk side by side together. You define what you want Africa to be. You define the Africa that we want, so that we are able to bequeath an Africa that is peaceful, that is generous to its young people, that is proud of its young people, that is fully committed, and whose leadership is also very, very proud of what the young women have become. So really, thank you very much, young men who are part of this important meeting. And really, as we celebrate 1325, we're also looking forward to partnering again with the young men to ensure that the Women, Peace and Security agenda of the African Union also it takes shape in such a way that women and young women are not only talking by themselves, but that young men are also part of the conversation. As our young women also raise their voices and fight for women's rights across all boards, I would like you really to use this platform, and I encourage you, African men, as I've already mentioned, to equally participate and lend your voice to this cause. I encourage all of you, dear colleagues, dear young men, dear young women, lions and lionesses of Africa, to really wear what I always call the African solidarity heads and lead Africa with excellence and define the post-Beijing+25 agenda that many young people after you, or that many young people after you will be proud of. It's really a collective responsibility to fight inequality and abuse of women's rights. It's important that we together define the human rights, not only of today, but of tomorrow. And really, the Gender Directorate is committed to working this journey with you and making sure that the outcomes of these consultations really do not end in our laptops, but that they are fully integrated in the processes that we'll be undertaking. And very soon, we will be inviting you to a pre-CSW Africa consultation meeting where there will be an opportunity to present the outcomes of all these consultations, so that we also integrate the outcomes into the global Common Africa position that will be taken to CSW next year. So really, I wish you all the very best. And Sadak, you're doing very well. Do support the leadership of the Action Coalition on Economic Rights and Justice. Make sure that you submit through the appropriate channels your inputs, and continue to lead together with the leader of that Action Coalition, who also happens to be the chair of the African Union for 2020, and really make sure that what SADC young people want is fully integrated. And as I mentioned, for us at the AUC, at the Gender Directorate, we endeavor to make sure that what you wish to see is indeed seen and incorporated in the document that we'll be submitting to the UN. So really, thank you so very much, and I look forward to hearing all your bright and beautiful ideas. Thank you so much. I appreciate you all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Victoria, and I think that she has laid a very important foundation for the rest of the session. I would like to, the next item on the agenda is for us to move to the breakout rooms. However, I would just like to, at this point, invite Dr. Shakira Trunara. She is supposed to be the chair for today. There was a little mix-up, but she's here now. So I'll just have her say a few words before we go into the breakout room, and during the closing plenary, she'll be moderating that session. Dr. Trunara, you're welcome, and you have the floor now.
Sure, thanks so much, Doc, and a warm good afternoon to everyone. I won't take too much of time. There was a little bit of a mix-up, so I do apologize for not joining earlier. I'm sure everyone's heard from the Special Envoy on Youth and also from the Gender Directorate, and wishing everyone a very fruitful breakaway sessions. From what I understand, the information will be very critical for the generation equality team and many other processes going forward, and looking forward to joining many of you throughout the discussion. So again, a warm welcome, and back to you, Doc.
Thank you very much, Dr. Shakira, and we'll be hearing more from her during the closing plenary. So right now we'll be Right now, we'll be moving to our breakout sessions, and the movement to our breakout sessions will be really simple. In the chat box, we have pasted a list of links. So just click on the link for your preferred breakout session, and you will automatically move to the breakout session that you would like to join.